Proverbs 19. Better is the poor that walketh in his integrity, than he that is perverse in his lips and is a fool. Also that the soul be without knowledge, it is not good, and he that hasteth with his feet sinneth. The foolishness of man perverteth his way, and his heart fretteth against the Lord. Wealth maketh many friends, but the poor is separated from his neighbour. A false witness shall not be unpunished, and he that speaketh lies shall not escape. Many will entreat the favour of the prince, and every man is a friend to him that giveth gifts. All the brethren of the poor do hate him. How much more do his friends go far from him? He pursueth them with words, yet they are wanting to him. He that getteth wisdom loveth his own soul. He that keepeth understanding shall find good. A false witness shall not be unpunished, and he that speaketh lies shall perish. Delight is not seemly for a fool, much less for a servant to have rule over princes. The discretion of a man deferreth his anger, and it is his glory to pass over a transgression. The king's wrath is as the roaring of a lion, but his favour is as dew upon the grass. A foolish son is the calamity of his father, and the contentions of a wife are a continual dropping. House and riches are the inheritance of fathers, and a prudent wife is from the Lord. Slothfulness casteth into a deep sleep, and an idle soul shall suffer hunger. He that keepeth the commandment keepeth his own soul, but he that despiseth his ways shall die. He that hath pity upon the poor lendeth unto the Lord, and that which he hath given will he pay him again. Chasten thy son while there is hope, and let not thy soul spare for his crying. A man of great wrath shall suffer punishment. For if thou deliver him, yet thou must do it again. Hear counsel, and receive instruction, that thou mayest be wise in thy latter end. There are many devices in a man's heart. Nevertheless, the counsel of the Lord, that shall stand. The desire of a man is his kindness, and a poor man is better than a liar. The fear of the Lord tendeth to life, and he that hath it shall abide satisfied. He shall not be visited with evil. A slothful man hideth his hand in his bosom, and will not so much as bring it to his mouth again. Smite a scorner, and the simple will beware, and reprove one that hath understanding, and he will understand knowledge. He that wasteth his father, and chaseth away his mother, is a son that causeth shame, and bringeth reproach. Cease, my son, to hear the instruction that causeth to err from the words of knowledge. An ungodly witness scorneth judgment, and the mouth of the wicked devoureth iniquity. Judgments are prepared for scorners, and stripes for the back of fools.
Good evening. It's Monday, October 6, 2014. This is your host, Mike Callahan, and this is the Watchman News. Wow, a lot of information this weekend. I was trying to carry a balance between spending time with my lovely girlfriend and keeping up on what's going on. And wow, I think I did a pretty good job trying to balance the two, considering all the news that came out this weekend. And I'm particularly talking about updates and news with the United States and the Ebola situation. It's a very, very fast-paced, fast-moving situation, and there's a lot of disinformation that's going around out there, and a lot of people that are jumping to conclusions. And at the same time, it seems like there's a lot of information being withheld, a lot of information being kept hush-hush. And then if things couldn't get worse, this morning I find out about an explosion at Iran. As far as I can tell, it was at a nuclear facility, but it was, I guess it was a military placement there at the nuclear facility. Again, a lot of information as far as that's concerned is being really, really hush-hush. Not a lot of information coming out about it. And that reminded me, I forgot a link. So let me go ahead and let's get started with suspicious observers. I've got two videos from him. I know there's only a link in the About tab for one, but if you're not subscribed to him by now, you should be. And you can easily grab the link for the other. While that is playing, I will grab the link that I forgot to get, and also it is not in the About tab, from BP Earthwatch, a little further information than what I had run across about the situation in Iran. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the Watchman News. And here you go. Or not Watchman News, Suspicious Observers. I'll get it right. It's Monday. Give me a break. Here we go.
Good morning, folks. It was a relatively calm day again on our star. Just a couple minor filament pops, north and south. Neither will produce a significant CME. Let's quickly look at our planetary visibility, starting with Jupiter in the pre-dawn sky. Then, in the evening, Saturn and Mars become visible after sunset. That's good to note with siding spring approaching Mars on October 19th. Get your scopes ready. Folks, we've known for weeks that the Stereo spacecraft positioned behind the sun would soon lose contact due to having that giant ball of fire in their line of sight. With Stereo B not updated since late September, we may have entered that period already. Updates to come. Solar wind shows fairly calm conditions the last 24 hours. Got some density spikes that brought the KP index up a bit, but it's nothing major. Solar flaring continues to be very weak, and this is expected to continue as the sunspot trough is rapidly approaching. That centralmost group might be regaining a gamma class, but it's a strain to predict any activity from those spots. definitely focused on the incoming coronal hole. You can see the extension of the southern opening looking dark and actually up near the equator. Luckily, that extension is weaker than the polar core of the coronal hole, but indeed, Gong confirms we're looking at a trans-equatorial extension there. Top quakes of the day remain near the West Pacific, including a downgraded rumble at New Zealand. Also took one above average southeast of Africa. Don't forget, we're just 2 days away from the lunar eclipse. Europe and Africa don't have much visibility, but the Americas and the Far East will see Earth cast its shadow on the moon. Let's quickly run down the state of the climate records. Below the video, you'll have a link to the official site maintained by NOAA. Starting with the United States, there have been more than 81,000 daily temperature records broken in the last 365 days. Interestingly, the cold records are somewhat dominating the heat records during that period. Globally, we are still watching heat in the lead, but the lead is dwindling. Over 2,700 monthly temperature records have fallen in the United States the past year. Cold still showing dominance there, while it has yet to catch up to the monthly records broken at the global level. Let's also discuss the ice. The Arctic sea ice is way below average, but also way above the low point set 2 years ago. We're about 50% recovered from 2012, and that is amazing. Meanwhile, Antarctic sea ice is still at all-time highs, which were also set last year. Now, it's vital to note that this is surface ice, and the total volume is actually decreasing as the western sheet loses mass from the underside. We now know that there are major underwater volcano eruptions directly beneath that melt, and scientists have confirmed a geothermal genesis to that underside melting. Well, folks, that last round of storms brought flooding to widespread areas in the east. This was the scene in Kentucky. Meanwhile, we must again put the U.S. Southwest on alert as we've got the precipitable water overlay on for Simon, dropping a ton of rain around the system and slated to shoot north towards the border of California and Arizona. Keeping the precipitable water overlay on, we see heat and moisture from the Gulf heading north to meet some very different air coming south from the northwest. Their convergence this evening brings our next severe storm warnings. Please check your forecasts around lunchtime. After Fan Phone brought 42-foot waves to Japan, it's ready to depart with Vong Fong in its wake, ready to make a northerly run right behind it. Eyes open. In Europe, I've got the pressure overlay on so you can see the strength of this low spanning from Iceland to the coast of the mainland. Also note the low in the Mediterranean, and the purple precipitation zones this evening should be no surprise. Down under, I've got the temperature overlay on, but you can see the convergence of an Antarctic low reaching up to southeastern Australia. Those are our top watches tonight. And we've also got purple over New Zealand due to a residual moisture flow over that region. Folks, HelioViewer has not updated for 3 days. We're once again at SDO for shots of our star to close. Eyes open. No fear. It's 6:15 a.m. Eastern Time, and that's the news. Be safe, everyone.
And thanks again to Ben Davison with Suspicious Observers. I do have a second short video. It's just a real short video. I believe he's doing a observatory update, but I wanted to include that. You notice you're going to hear different and more alert tones in the background. Please ignore them. And I will try and mute that when I'm not playing videos and whatnot from browser windows. I want to give a shout out to Jason from Saving the Truth Movement. He has brought a number of us together trying to do our best job of getting the truth and doing so quickly and efficiently and correctly. And I want to give a shout out to Saving the Truth Movement. Go and subscribe to his YouTube channel, bookmark his webpage, and pay attention, along with the Alternative News Gatherer. Michelle does a wonderful job on that. Subscribe to her newsletter at her website. It is, I've been subscribed for I'm not sure how many days now, but it is really nice to get that email every day. It is just filled with a ton of information. Really nice. I mean, if I could choose one newsletter to get, period, that would be the newsletter to get, because it's just so informative. and just it's just wonderful. It's a great newsletter. I can't put it any better than that. But anyway, I was explaining some of the alert tones that you may hear. Let me go ahead and get to the second video real quick of suspicious observers. I think it's like a minute and a half, so it's just an update on his project, and I would do anything to support him, Ben Davison, because he does such a wonderful job, spends so much time doing what he does, so we know and we have proper information. So here you go, just a minute and a half.
Good evening, folks. Evening News is on YouTube tonight because we have a couple of updates to the Mobile Observatory project. The RV had some mechanical issues, but those are getting fixed, and we're getting ready to get back on tour. A couple little changes to the schedule first, however. First off, if you didn't know about www.observatoryproject.com, this is how you find out when we'll be in your area and where we will be. You go ahead and click on the journey. We've had to push some things back a bit due to the mechanical issues. Our next stop is in Baltimore and the Maryland Science Center on October 11th. We'll be in the rear of the building, hopefully looking at sunspots. You will also notice we had to knock Knoxville off the list. This is due to both previous commitments and local interest level. Hope to see as many of you as possible. Solar flaring, still low, but on a tiny little rise up there, not so much from the sunspots, but from hydro flaring in the wake of destabilized filaments popping. They are doing so right above the incoming coronal hole down south. We're highlighting Typhoon Vongfong because the top quake of the last few days is likely an Earth spot reaction. Terrific example here. Our Earth spots hypothesis can be found under the Electric Earth and Sun section of suspiciousobservers.org. If you're not a member yet, it is dirt cheap. I'll see you guys in the morning. Be safe, everyone.
And I just figured anybody that follows them might appreciate the update, but anybody that follows them probably already seen it. So anyway, let's get going with some news. I got a fair amount of news for you. First, we'll start off with the incident at the Iran military facility. Let me mute that so you don't hear all the bling. Okay, deadly fire at Iran military explosives facility. A fire and explosion at a military explosives facility near the Iranian capital, Tehran. Wow, what's wrong with me? Has left at least 2 people dead, reports say. The semi-official Iranian Students News Agency said the fire was in an explosive materials production unit. A pro-opposition website reported a huge blast near the Parchin military site, southeast of the capital, but this was not confirmed. Parchin has been linked to Iran's controversial nuclear program. The International Atomic Energy Agency has not been given access to the complex since 2005. Analysts say the IAEA suspects Iran of experimenting with explosives capable of triggering a nuclear weapon at Parchin. Window shattered. The preform website, Saham News, something like that, said the explosion on Sunday evening was so intense that windows of buildings 9 miles away were shattered. The glare from the blast could also be seen from a great distance, the report added. ISNA, quoting Iran's defense industries organization, said unfortunately, due to the incident, 2 workers of this production unit lost their lives. It gave no further details. Last month, the IAEA said more activity had been conducted at the Parchin military base. It said Iran had also missed a deadline to answer further questions about its nuclear program. Iran is in negotiations with 6 world powers on a permanent agreement over its nuclear industry. The West suspects Iran of trying to develop a nuclear weapon, but Iranian leaders insist they only want atomic energy. Tasks are focused on lifting Western sanctions in exchange for scaling back of Iran's uranium enrichment program, and a deadline for the agreement has been set for the 24th of November. Wow. Okay, that must be next year or something, I guess. But anyway, there was an explosion there. I would deem it very suspicious, as I would any kind of explosion. I mean, in Syria, there's been explosions. In Russia, there's been explosions at these military places. And I'm always suspect of things like that. My concern is, and I will be watching out for it, would be the any kind of Russian response to this situation, because of course Russia is allies with Iran. So on this, I've got a video from BP Earthwatch where he speaks a little more in detail with a little more knowledge. I have had a heck of a time getting any more information than this from this situation. It's very, very hush hush, which speaks volumes to me. So without further ado, let's go to BP Earthwatch, see what he's got to say. And I've got some other very interesting stories right after that, especially including the death of a child due to the enterovirus. So nasty stuff. So here's BP Earthwatch. I will be right back.
October 6, 2014. This is an update from the Iranian explosion. You're looking at a map of Tehran, and if you come out that Highway 44, you can see Parchin, and that's where they're saying the explosion originated from. The Iranian news service is denying it. But the villages that are to the left of this, in Changa, you see the star to the left, and north of this, in what's called Hanamak, it burned the trees. It was that intense, they reported for in the entire area. Now, you can see it's desert, but there's trees and orchards in that area. And all the way into the eastern side of Tehran, it's shattered glass, they're saying up to 10 miles away. So that kind of gives you an idea of the scale that we're looking at. Now, the reports, again, are being denied by the Iranian news, but one of the pro-reform groups there, again, have got this information together and centered that explosive point. But it says a mysterious explosion at or near an important military complex rocked the Iranian capital on Sunday, lighting up the skies over the city. Iranian official sources deny the explosion that had taken place at the complex, the expansive Parchin military site in the east of the city, where international monitors suspect Iran once tested triggers for potential nuclear weapons. Now listen, the witnesses in the east of Tehran said the windows had been shattered in the vicinity of the military complex and that all trees in a 100-yard radius of two villages, Changa and Hanamak, that I showed you, were burned. The villages are right on the outskirts of the military site. But they're saying that was, again, the Iran's Defense Industries Organization. Why, if it's not military, why are they involved in it? But it says the opposition website claims a blast occurred near the Parchin military site southeast of the capital, but there's no confirmation. The Parchin site, denied to international inspectors until reported by opposition groups, is thought to be a key component of Iran's clandestine nuclear weapons program. Inspectors from the UN's International Atomic Energy Agency had been denied, but guys, they were just hours from going in there today. But listen, they're saying that they think that it's involving high explosive shaped charges with an inert core of depleted uranium to test the characteristics of the explosion. But an implosion style nuclear device has nothing to do with nuclear power. That's dangerous enough, as we can see from Fukushima and from around our nation. But again, they're saying that if you'll notice in the center of this, as you read down, some of these overlap, but Persian reports from the BBC's Persian language website reported that Iranian Defense Ministry has not announced the exact name of the place, but the explosion came just hours before inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Organization, who we've seen, were set to tour some of Iran's nuclear sites. Now, what does that mean when you put the pieces together? Of course, they will not continue the tour because they have set up an area of just roadblocks with the military all through that area. And of course, they're going to shut down anything until they can figure out how to handle what has happened. And what has happened, was it Israel? Was it one of the other nations involved with Israel that do not want them having nuclear weapons? And again, the Ayatollah was just over the weekend calling for the destruction of Israel and its allies. But again, you're talking about trees burned, windows shattered for 10 miles. Some of you guys may know more about depleted uranium and what they would use that for than I do, especially with a shaped charge, I guess like a C4 maybe, but much larger. It looks like with something like that, it would be for very small.
It cut off his video, and I don't know why, but he had more information to go into it than what I had, so I figured I would just play his video. But yeah, it's interesting to say the least, especially like with the comments that was made and all that. Again, I will emphasize it's probably important to watch the Russian response. So anyway, let's move on. As soon as the webpage loads up there, a boy went to bed fine, didn't wake up due to enterovirus D68. To me, that is a very scary thought. Eli, a sweet, active, blonde-haired preschooler, had gone to sleep feeling fine, perhaps dreaming of playing with his sisters or having a fun day at school. He didn't make it through the night. Well, the young boy died sometime between the night of Wednesday, September 24th, and the next morning. It wasn't until Friday night that the authorities figured out why. Enterovirus D68, a particularly pernicious strain of any otherwise common virus that has been particularly widespread this year. While it's been detected in at least 4 people who died, Eli's case is the first in which authorities have definitely cited enterovirus D68 as the cause of death. Jeff Plunkett, the health officer in Eli's hometown of Hamilton Township, New Jersey, explained Saturday that while the boy was born premature, he had no other existing condition, and his parents no reason to believe he was direly ill before the virus took his life. Eli was 4. Bless his little soul. He was asymptomatic and fine, and the next morning he had passed, Plunkett told reporters. So the onset was very rapid, very sudden, and that's clearly the big difference between enterovirus D68 and other enterovirus strains. Authorities are testing one other child who attended preschool at Eli's school, Yardville Elementary, albeit in a different class for enterovirus D68. That boy had been treated at Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital and is now recovering at home, according to Plunkett. There are no other suspected cases in the town of 90,000 residents, nor is there any sign of pervasive sickness at Yardville Elementary or other town schools with attendance levels around normal. This speaks to the deadliness, the randomness, and in a sense, the persuasiveness of enterovirus D68. Hamilton Township Mayor Kelly Yade pointed out that his parents nor anyone will ever be able to determine where Eli may have contracted this virus. The virus is out of the community. There is nothing we can do about that, the health officer said. The way to prevent it is from your own personal hygiene and be vigilant with your own children and yourself. Officials did not disclose Eli's last name during a Saturday press briefing. And it goes on about more cases are likely. My fear, and I don't know how possible this is, I was told there is possibility if it would be an engineered virus. My fear would be if something like this would somehow, like Mary, so to speak, in lack of better terms, Ebola, because obviously this thing is just terrible by itself, and it's upper respiratory to where we all know by now that the symptoms and stuff and what Ebola does. And wow, if you mix those two, it would be absolutely nasty. But where are we getting this? That's what I want to know. I know different sicknesses, different strains, different viruses, they're around all the time. But it just seems like we are just getting hit with this onslaught of extremely, extremely deadly viruses. And so I have to ask the question, where? Why? It's just interesting. It really is interesting. And there's so many ways that you could go with it. It could be government stuff. It could be simply Mother Nature saying, "Hey, I've had enough of what you're doing to me." Because I'll tell you what, Mother Earth will shake us off like a bad case of fleas if it needs to. It really will. I'm very, very, very confident about that. So let's go ahead and keep moving forward. This is a link that you will not find in the About tab because it came up, I do believe it came up after this one. Anyway, we'll get to it. So we constantly keep hearing, get your flu shot, get your vaccine, get in line, watch TV, be a zombie, all this good stuff. So I thought this was interesting. Teachers report having seizures after flu shots diagnosed with hypoglycemia. So 2 teachers in the Parkway School District reported getting sick after their flu shots on September 26. They reported blacking out and having seizures. Then, when they went to the emergency room at St. Luke's, doctors reportedly diagnosed them with severe hypoglycemia. So doctors say the Shenandoah Valley Elementary School teachers reported the symptoms to a school nurse. Parkway offered the flu vaccine for teachers and other employees through an insurance provider. They have discontinued the shots as a precaution during the investigation. The Post-Dispatch reports that the teachers who became sick may have been given insulin, but it's unclear at this time whether that would be by mistake by the nurse or by the manufacturer in the packaging. The school also administered flu shots to hundreds of other teachers without complaints. So, it's hard to say whether or not, again, they were given the wrong thing or what, but I will not buy the vaccines are safe. I will not buy that these pharmaceutical companies are competent. Not whatsoever. I don't buy any of it, I just don't. Again, I see all these things like this D68 and all that running around, but you will not see me running to get any kind of a vaccine. I will take my chances with Mother Nature. I've always kind of stayed away from different medications and whatnot all my life. I don't always run to the doctor if I have a sniffle or a cold or even the flu or anything like that, because it's my firm belief that by avoiding these medications, avoiding these quote-unquote treatments, my body is building its immune system. It's building up its defense against these things. And let's go to the other route. Let's say the people that are constantly going and getting antibiotics and whatnot, their bodies are actually building an immunity to those antibiotics. So when they do desperately need that medication, their bodies can't do any good with it. So, I tend to stay away from it unless I absolutely have to have it. I would urge anybody else to do the same. But this is a crazy story any which way it goes, whether it was a mislabeling of a product, whether it was incompetence by the school nurse, or whether it was indeed something that affected the nurse or the teachers in a negative way from the vaccine. As always, be vigilant with these things. Be vigilant with these things. Look at the label. That's all I can ask people to do is read the label. If you're really interested in getting a vaccine, if you really think I'm wrong, go somewhere to a doctor or to the hospital, whatever, get a label and read it and read the words about how it says it has never been proven effective. Never been proven effective. Read the ingredients of what's in it and go home, get out Google and research those ingredients, because I think you'll be shocked. Folks, it is never a good idea to introduce heavy metals into your system for any reason ever. And they claim, oh, it's just a preservative. No big deal. Yeah, it is a big deal, because heavy metals are accumulative in the human body, especially in your brain. Especially in your brain. Wow. We could get into a whole rant about autism right there. It's ridiculous. So anyway, let's move forward. And our long show doesn't get an entirely huge amount of viewers. Thanks, social media, our average attention span is now shorter than goldfish. Yes, shorter than goldfish. This is an old story, but I thought it was important. I believe it's an old story. Anyway, it's still important. Oops, I forgot. On October 9th, 1999, I married the love of my life. The following day, we were whisked off to beautiful Hawaii for an amazing honeymoon trip we still talk about now, almost 15 years ago. 2 days into our trip, I was videotaping the sunset and noticed on the date stamp of the old camcorder screen that it was October 12th. Oh my God, I forgot it was my birthday. How could I forget my own birthday? Thankfully, it was mine and not my wife's. Might be an ex-wife then. But it's easy to see how this happened. I had gotten married, spent almost a whole day on a plan to fly halfway around the world. I landed in a tropical paradise, and I guess part of my brain just checked out. This was 1999, before Facebook, before Twitter, before iPhones with a reliable cell phone service. LinkedIn launched in June 2003. Facebook launched in 2004. YouTube launched in 2005. Twitter in 2006. And now we have the Pinterest, Instagram, and Snapchat. All of these mechanisms are pushing content across the world that now also sends millions of texts per second. On average, attention span is now 8 seconds. 1 second less than a goldfish. According to the National Center for Biotechnology Information at the U.S. National Library of Medicine, the average attention span of a human being has dropped from 12 seconds to 8 seconds in 2013. This is 1 second less than the attention span of a goldfish. That's right, goldfish have an attention span of 9 seconds. 1 second more than you and I. Wow. According to this source, this is due to external stimulation, like all the content marketing we're producing and distributing across social media channels, the research states. And they say, quote unquote, attention span is the amount concentrated time on a task without becoming distracted. Squirrel. Most educators and psychologists agree that the ability to focus attention on a task is crucial for the achievement of one's goals. It's no surprise attention spans have been decreasing over the past decade with the increase in external stimulation. Squirrel. Sorry, I apologize, but it's frustrating for me because it's like, focus, people, focus. Additional statistics on attention span. 25% of teenagers report forgetting important details about their friends and family. 7% forget their own birthdays from time to time. The average office worker checks their email 30 times per hour. Typical mobile users check their phones more than 150 times per day. Content on the internet tripled between 2010 and 2013. Social media sharing has doubled from 2011 to 2013. The content marketing imperative, This is one of the key stats that really seemed to resonate with the audience I spoke with this morning. I was thrilled to kick off the day as the opening keynote, and although I was competing with the mayor of New York, Bill de Blasio, on another stage, the audience filled the Media Post Theater at OMMA MPO Mama. Whatever that is, I don't know what that is. My job was to set the stage for the discussion on native advertising. And there's no real need to even finish that up. But what my point is we have to be very vigilant about this as well. Because I believe this is social engineering. Because if people can't focus on something long enough, then they're not going to care about things. It's just how the human mind works. You have to be able to focus long enough to care. You have to be able to focus long enough to get all the information, the detailed information, the important information. And if you can't focus, you're not going to get that. You're not. It's just not going to happen. That's why I've avoided television. That's why I avoid a lot of things. Yes, I'm active on social media, on Facebook. I'm obviously active on Google. Somewhat active, on Google Hangouts. That's a new thing for me. But, when I watch a YouTube video, I can watch the whole thing. And I can pretty well pay attention to the whole thing. And I get frustrated with myself if I catch myself drifting while watching important information on YouTube, or anywhere else for that matter. And I refocus myself. I catch myself and I purposely refocus myself. And it's a task sometimes. And I fought this. I've done what I could to fight this. But like Twitter, things like Twitter are bad news. Instagram, Snapchat, all these things just are real quick. And then when people have a serious thought, a deep thought that takes more than 165 or 140 characters or whatever, then people get lost. They get bored. That's why in advertising and in movies, they're constantly doing changes with the camera views and stuff like that. It's to keep people's interest. It's to keep their focus. So try, please, if you're one of the majority out there and you're having a problem focusing, turn off that television. Catch yourself doing that. Do mind exercises. You need to get that focus back. You really do, because it's important. It's important, and it's going to be even more important as you get older in life, because I do believe that if you don't get on top of that, then you're going to have problems. You're going to have problems associated with dementia and other things like that, Alzheimer's disease, and nasty things. So that's so quick. Let's talk about this. This is actually a what do you call it? A triumph, a triumph in the rights of our freedom. The 5-second rule ruled unconstitutional by federal court. A federal court has ruled that the 5-second rule that was enforced during the Ferguson protests is not constitutional. The ACLU filed a lawsuit in September challenging that the law is not allowed under the First Amendment. Police in Ferguson used what became known as the 5-second rule as grounds to arrest protesters. An order was given to protesters to keep moving. If a protester was in one place for at least 5 seconds, they would be arrested. And if I recall correctly, something very similar happened during the Occupy Wall Street movement. I could be wrong, but I do seem to recall something to that effect in New York, that they had tried pulling on the people. Look, this is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And I hope any protester that was arrested under this quote-unquote 5-second rule, I really hope that they go after the city for the unconstitutional law and its enforcement. Again, I apologize for the blinging in the background. Always good information coming in from these guys. So let me, I can mute that out since I'm not playing anything. But anyway, yeah, craziness, craziness. But I wanted to, I wanted to show that. I'm going to go ahead and I am going to play a video and then see what kind of time we have left there. I'm going to switch things up. Because of the craziness going on and different things going on, I want to be sure that different information about prepping and survival get out to you, because things can change in such a short amount of time. If this Ebola thing gets out of hand, things are really going to change. And this is some important information that I think people should know. And I do have the link to this video on the About tab, as well as another link I'm going to try and get to right after this video is done. But this is 14 things that will instantly give your location away. And I think it's a very important subject, very important topic to cover, because I believe for quite some time, at least for the first, say, 90 days of a national disaster of any kind, whether it be EMP, whether it be a virus outbreak or whatever it would be, I believe the first 90 days is crucial. And I believe the best way to quote unquote fight is to hide in those 90 days. Let other people fight. Let other people fight. Let the government move in, well, whatever the case may be. But, you stay safe. Keep yourself and your family hidden and fed. and all the necessary things. So and part of that is going to stay hidden because you're going to have people that aren't prepared or don't know how to do things themselves that are going to go around and take from those that do. So I think an important part of the recipe is to stay hidden. So, but anyway, these are 14 things that will give your location away. It's 7 minutes 41 seconds, but I think it's pretty crucial information. So without further ado, enjoy this.
Everybody, here is a list of 14 things that can instantly give you away if you're trying to remain hidden after any SHTF event or situation. Let's say you're bugging out, or let's say an SHTF event has occurred and you are not at home and you're on your way home. You're trying to get back home. So you're trying to stay on the down low, not make too much ruckus, go unnoticed until you can get safely home to where your community, family, friends, or your supplies are. Okay, things to be aware of that will give you away. Smoke. Smoke from a fire or the fire itself will definitely give people a location to head towards. They'll know something's going on over there. They might come and check it out. You could make yourself a target. Be careful of that. A little tip, if you want to build a fire, build it at night. It will camouflage the smoke, although you will have to shield the fire itself somehow. Okay. Smells from cooking food. That will give your location away as well. Hungry people will smell food, something to think about. This may not be an issue when the SHTF event initially happens, but let's say you've got a long trek home and many days have passed. Well, cooking food will become a hot commodity. So beware of your smells of cooking. Number 3, cough. Yes, there's nothing worse than getting a cough and you cannot stifle it and it just makes you hack. That will definitely give you away if you're trying to stay quiet or on the down low or camouflaged. So think about to handle that. Any of the guaifenesin containing products, Robitussin, things like that will definitely help with a cough. So you might want to have access to cough medicine if that's an issue. Number 4, children. Yep, let's say you're out just for a fun-filled day with the kids and boom, something happens. There you are, car full of kids. This is not going to be a quiet stealth operation. So you may want to have a counseling session with your kids before anything like this happens, that whenever mom or dad says we're in a particular type of situation, we are going to go into quiet mode. And you may want to discuss that depending on the age of the child, what quiet mode really means and how important it is. It's different than regular quiet mode, if you know what I mean. Number 5, the barking dog. Yep, you could be out, walking your dog in the park or something, and all of a sudden something happens and you're trying to get home. And you want to stay on the down low. A dog might be good for protection, but it also might give you away when you're trying to remain hidden. The dog might react to sounds or smells, and you need to take that into consideration. Number 6, garbage. Yep. Garbage is a telltale sign of human activity, and the fresher the garbage, the more recent the activity. So if you are traveling to get home, you're making little campsites, things like that, or you're at your bug out location, you do not want to be putting out any visible garbage because that will tell people there are supplies inside. Okay, number 8, footprints in the snow or mud, depending on your location or environment. People will notice active footprints, and they can tell how recently you've been there, depending on their tracking abilities. But obviously, you're going to want to cover up any footprints if you're trying to hide your base camp or your nighttime, sleeping place if you're in transit trying to get back home. Okay. This also goes if you're trying to get to your bug out location. It, just depends what the circumstance is. Number 9, noise. You want to minimize any kind of noise. Obviously, any human type of noise is going to let people know that there are humans around. Voices, things like that. Also, Number 10, cell phone sounds. Let's say it's not a grid down situation or your cell phone still operates. We all know in the movie theater how annoying a little beep or a chirp from a cell phone or a ring can be. Just imagine you're in a bug out situation and you're hiding and you completely forgot to think about your cell phone and the noises it makes. So you might want to put it on mute or no sound or only vibrate or something, so that only you are notified and not the world around you when you're attempting to get home. Number 11, the shape of the visual human form. Soldiers who are trained in camouflage in combat know very clearly how the human form is spotted by the human eye very quickly. So anything you can do to detract from the shape of the human form is a good thing. So you have a couple options here. You can spread your body out flat, wide, or you can crunch it up small in a ball. You can also use objects around you to change the shape of what your human form looks like. You can use your environment like trees and bushes and straw, whatever have you. The way they use ghillie suits and they stuff straw and grasses and things like that. But you can do it with any objects around you. You don't have to have a ghillie suit on. Just stay aware to minimize the human form shape. Number 12, movement. The human eye will catch movement very quickly. So if you do encounter somebody coming along and you do not want to be noticed, immediately freeze, stay still, do not move. Hopefully you're already in a minimal visual human form position. Do not move. Even if they look right at you or look your way, they may still not see you. Do not move. Number 13, avoid bright colors. Okay, here's Hubby Preppers. This is what they gave them after the marathon, bright orange. And it's navy blue inside with the fuzzy. I would, this is like a heating poncho, heating blanket sort of thing. I would turn it inside out and go for the dark side showing if you're trying to remain warm, but you definitely do not want to use any bright colors while you're traveling. And number 14, the last one, is avoid looking too military, too camoed up, too geared up. This makes you look like a nice target with a lot of valuable supplies. So you don't want to look like a gear guy or gear gal going down the street. It's probably much wiser to blend in with your environment or the people around you. Neutral colors, average looking, maybe a backpack, but try to stay on the down low and until you can get home to your home base. So there you go, folks. 14 things that will instantly give you away. Just beware of them ahead of time so you can plan ahead. Happy and healthy prepping, everybody. I would love to hear more thoughts and ideas. If you have any other things that might give you away instantly, please list them below because we definitely need to think about these things ahead of time. Take care, everyone. Happy and healthy prepping.
And those are some good suggestions, some good thoughts by Healthy Prepper. I wanted to play that because, again, it's probably going to be a situation to where you're going to want to be able to stay hidden. It really is. That initial, say 72 hours, between 48 and 72 hours, things will get absolutely crazy in an SHTF situation. So that's especially the time you want to be hidden. And then things, for those people that make it past that, things are going to start getting real desperate, say the 2 and 3 week mark afterwards. And I would say up to about 2 months, 2.5 months, things could be extremely crazy, especially in metropolitan cities and whatnot, well-populated areas. Things are going to get crazy. So the better idea would be to stay kind of hidden. That would be my recommendation. Now, I'm going to read a quick article here from Preparing for SHTF, and this is I think in need right now because we don't want to be too crazy right now with this Ebola thing, but we want to be vigilant. I want to thank Jason with Saving the Truth movement for letting me know the difference between airborne and aerosolized. And I thank you, Jason, for that. You did a good job of explaining it to me. The Ebola virus, they're playing a word game, as it was explained to me. No, it's not technically, or at least as far as we know, it's not airborne. Airborne would be just simply through the air. Me sitting here, right here, and all of a sudden, boom, I got it. That would be airborne. Imagine something like radiation or something like that as being airborne, okay? We really don't have any evidence that Ebola is airborne. However, we do know it is aerosolized. Now, that means like when you sneeze, the droplets that come from your sneeze, right? They land on, say, an object, or let's say somebody cups their nose when they sneeze or whatever. They blow those droplets into their hand. Then let's say they open a door, they turn a doorknob, or they flush a toilet, or whatever the case may be, right? So just like you would imagine the cold or the flu or whatever, you transfer that bodily fluid to that doorknob or to that toilet handle or whatever the case may be, or it could be on a keyboard or a desk or whatever, and somebody else comes by and touches the same thing and then turns around and rubs their face or whatever the case. Same thing as the cold or flu or anything like that. Ebola can be transmitted that same way. And the CDC, the WHO, and the U.S. government, and all these people, the news media outlets and stuff are not telling you this. They're playing a word game. And they are correct, or at least as far as we know, they are correct when saying it is not airborne, but they are not emphasizing that it is aerosolized. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Let me real quick read this article and I'll close up. I was like 5 minutes late getting the news started, so we'll go a little over. Fear, apprehension, or even a high level of concern can be beneficial to your well-being if you can control the feelings. Fear is instinctive, and it keeps us from doing things that could hurt or kill us. Recognize fear for what it is, however. Listen to it, but above all, listen to what your head is telling you based on the information you're processing from the environment around you. The more information you have about something, the better you can handle or reduce the apprehension or fear associated with it. And I've emphasized this many times on this show. Those that claim to have no fear are honest, or they are under-medicated, and in either case, they should be avoided because they can be a danger to you. People that cannot understand or willingly ignore the consequences of their actions can end up being injured, killed, or in legal trouble. Fear of the outcome motivates people, and it motivates preppers to ensure they are ready for any situation. The Ebola scare is a prime example. And as the virus progresses, fear may turn to panic. And this is when the virus itself becomes a secondary, and the people's reaction to their fear is what the issue becomes. You cannot allow this to happen to you. You need to continue to prepare, plan, and adjust your preparations as the situation evolves. And evolve it will. It will get worse before it gets better, but this simply means you have to be ahead of it. Telling the American citizens, supposed to be American, the chance of dying from a lightning strike or being bitten by an albino cobra is greater than contracting Ebola is not helpful, nor does it quell any fears. However, in comparison to other ways you can die, Ebola is low on the list. Not impossible, of course, and things can change quickly, but as of right now, the chance is low. Although, as a prepper, you prepare anyway. You prepare as you would for any crisis. You assess the situation, make plans, and then start gathering the needed materials, tools, and supplies. Running around in circles looking for someone to yell or be mad at means you are giving into your fears instead of preparing. Fear or a high level of concern, for example, should keep you out of airports and out of any public gathering places near airports where international travelers would gather. The same concern should prompt you to up your game and gather more water, food, first aid supplies, cleaning supplies such as hand soap, hand sanitizer, bleach, disposable towels, plastic sheeting, and large heavy-duty garbage bags. Because from what the information you have gathered thus far, quarantines are a real possibility. Instead of just one apartment being quarantined, it might be an entire complex or an entire suburb next time. Quarantines may be put in place out of an abundance of caution, and you may not know whether you or anyone in the quarantine area has been exposed to the virus or not, but you may still be required to shelter in place. The incubation period for the virus is 21 days, so you have been prepared to shelter in place for this length of time. And I've told you 90 days. I would recommend 90 days. Again, it goes back to the impact on you and your community. You are not likely to get the virus, but if someone is infected or suspected of being infected in your community, it will have an effect and people will react. Those not informed and not prepared will likely panic. And those are the ones you need to worry about most. What are your risks and risks to your family? Do you travel frequently or have you traveled recently? People can leave Liberia, for example, fly to Germany, France, or any other country, and then fly to the United States. So anyone on any flight could have started out from West Africa. In other words, any flight you're on may pose a risk. Do you work in the medical field? Those that do work in the medical profession will have a higher risk of contracting the virus. Nurses, janitors, paramedics, firefighters, and maintenance personnel are at a higher risk than others are. Police and rescue personnel responding to a car wreck, for example, simply have no idea of the medical or travel history of the person they're helping until possibly it is too late. Assess your risks honestly and then continue to prepare. Rely on your training and do your research if unsure of any information being put out. If you're in the medical profession and do not know the risks associated with Ebola, know what symptoms to look for and know what questions to ask, and then how to treat a person infected. You will need to seek other employment for the safety or the public at large. It's a pretty good article. I would tend to say we need to be a little bit more edge on it than what this on this situation than what this article emphasizes, but that's because it's one of those things that once it starts going, it's going to go like crazy, especially in the well-populated country that this is. Also, keeping in mind that our bodies, right, these people in Africa, right, they don't take all the medications, the antibiotics and blah, blah, blah that we do in this country. That is a bad thing for us, not a good thing. That means our body has less ability to fight off these bugs than what these people in West Africa do. I promise you, because our immune systems are not able to handle, because we have all these quote unquote luxuries of all these medications, these antibiotics, and a much cleaner environment. Our bodies are not used to this type of stuff. It's just not. So I would say be vigilant, keep an eye on things, really keep a close eye on things. It seems like a lot of information is getting suppressed. The story in Dallas, there's a lot of fishy things that are going on with that story. So we'll see. But as always, be prepared. Always be prepared. You know, way to filter water. I got hand sanitizer in my bug out bag. There's several uses for it besides sanitizing my hands. Okay, I can use it for a form of light, right? Because I carry some cotton wick that I use to re-wick my e-cig coils. I carry some cotton wick in my bug out bag, not only for e-cigs, but I can make a makeshift candle out of it. And it's real easy using one of those hand sanitizer bottles. They're the little bitty travel size ones, right? And I've got a couple boxes of them in there. And all I got to do is cut some wick off with my multi-tool. Cut some wick off, open up the hand sanitizer bottle, put the wick down in there, light it. I've got a light source. I've got a candle. That'll last for quite a little while, right? Okay, I can also use it. I could find an empty tin can or an empty soda can or whatever. Squirt some of the hand sanitizer in it. Boom, I've got a heat source for cooking something. Okay, so that way I can cook a meal. So hand sanitizer has plenty of good uses besides just cleaning your hands. And that's why I have it in my bug out bag. It's a multi-purpose tool, so to speak, in itself. So keep that in mind, you know, definitely keep some hand sanitizer in your bug out bag. Keep it in your place of shelter, whether it be your home or your bug out shelter or whatever the case may be. Hand sanitizer. It's not just for medical uses. You can use it for many, many different things. And it's handy. It's handy for those things. But anyway, that's what I got for you tonight. Hopefully tomorrow night I'm a little more with it. I've been a little distracted today. a lot of things going on. Been really battling, trying to get information about what's going on in Iran and whatnot. So, and other things. So, but it's all good. God's with me. God's with all of us. So I will see you tomorrow night. You all have a good evening. May God bless you all. May He walk with you. Be one with your spirit. I do love you all. Hang in there. Keep abreast to the news. Keep your eyes open. Keep your ears to the ground. And be vigilant. Be ready. Because this everything could change by next week this time. I mean, it could really change that quick. So hang in there. I will see you tomorrow night. Love you. Good night.